I love SRPGs, and if you're watching my channel, there's a good chance that you do too. Most of my SRPG experience is with Fire Emblem, and as a result, whenever I play a new strategy game, that is my natural point of comparison. But as of late, I've been experiencing something of a Fire Emblem burnout, and so I've been turning to indie SRPGs in order to get my fill of strategy. And that brings us to the subject of today's video, Stratagem Lost. For disclosure purposes, I was given an early copy of the demo by this game's creator, as well as access to the press kit, but this is not sponsored content. I'm not being paid anything for this video. That being said, having played the 2-chapter long demo, I think this game has a lot of potential. And I think it's the sort of thing that any fan of SRPGs should consider wishlisting or even contributing to the Kickstarter, both of which will be linked below. The first and most obvious way that Stratagem Lost differentiates itself from Fire Emblem and other SRPGs is with its tone and aesthetics. The game immediately sticks out with an incredibly grungy art style. It feels like something you would find in a sketchbook. Personally, I am a huge fan of how everything looks in this game. It's got a rough feel to it, but intentionally. And in fact, the game devs said that this game was heavily influenced by the punk movement, drawing from it both in terms of visuals and the tone of the story overall, which does open up with an incredibly dark note in order to set the tone for the experience you're about to embark on. The opening scene is of one of the main characters burying everyone from her squad after taking heavy losses in securing a fort during war. Then, when she radios command to talk about the successful mission, they tell her that it doesn't matter because a ceasefire was just called. But then, as if to make things worse, another group of enemies shows up who aren't aware of the ceasefire and kill the one remaining survivor in her squad. The prologue closes with him bleeding out to the sound of the rain, setting up for a much darker story than the happy-go-lucky Fire Emblems of late. Combine that with a soundtrack inspired by alt-rock and nu metal, and some truly impressive voice acting even as early as the prologue, and you've got me sold on the aesthetics alone. But arguably the most important part of a game is the gameplay, so how does that hold up? Well, I'm happy to say that Stratagem Lost delivers interesting decisions on that part as well. The actions you take in the game revolve around a stamina system. Each character has 10 stamina at the start of their turn, and they must consume some to move and attack, as well as use skills. So far so standard, but the thing that really stuck out to me is that attacking on your turn isn't the only time you consume stamina. You also need to use stamina to counterattack. Counterattacks take less stamina than initiating attacks, but they still consume some. For all the units that I had, it took 3 stamina to attack, but 1 to counterattack, but it is my understanding that there is going to be some characters who take more for both their attacks and counterattacks in the full game. Because moving also costs stamina, this makes for an interesting push and pull, where if you want to counterattack an enemy phase a bunch of people, you're going to have to do it without moving much on the prior turn. Even as early as the prologue, this was a part of my strategic decision making. By the way, if you want to see the footage of my first playthrough of the demo, it is linked below in an unlisted video. In addition to the stamina system, your characters have a plethora of skills. I didn't get to play with too many in my time with the demo, but one that stands out in memory is a character who was able to use a skill to switch between medium and light weapons, which is relevant because there is a light, medium, heavy weapon triangle, wherein medium beats light, heavy beats medium, and light beats heavy. All weapons are located somewhere on the heavy, medium, light chart, regardless of their range, so even guns and other 2-range weapons will be considered somewhere within the triangle. Think of it as something similar to Fire Emblem Fates, which includes knives, bows, and spells in the triangle as well. The last thing that I want to touch on is something that probably doesn't matter to everyone, but was a big deal to me, and that is the accessibility features. Immediately on starting up the game, there was a warning about flashing lights and epilepsy problems, and in the options menu, there was the ability to turn off screen shake for those of us, myself included, who are prone to migraines and motion sickness. It probably seems like a small thing to a lot of y'all, but it was something that immediately warmed me up to the game. While the demo is obviously in very early stages, I am incredibly optimistic from what I've seen so far, and eager to see what the final product this team can achieve is. The art style is immaculate, the gameplay is quite good, and the setting is very different from any SRPG I've personally played. Even the tiny snippets of story that I experienced during the 2 chapters I played got me hooked and wanting to see where things go from here. So if this is the sort of thing that seems up your alley, I would encourage you to check it out. Like I said, links to the demo and the Kickstarter are below. For what it's worth, I thought that this project was promising enough to bring to people's attention. Regardless of what you choose to do though, I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe, gamers.